Richiko, welcome to Wealth Talk today.
Hi Christian, it's great to be on the show today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. And today we are going to be walking through the recurring revenue roadmap and focusing, the spotlight on you as our member for this month, Richiko. And not just member of the month really, but obviously we know you now much better because you're also a member of the team, our community support manager. But it wasn't always that way, right? You joined as a member just like everybody else. And when was that, Richiko?
I did, yes. I joined in 2019 as a founder member. So yeah, one of the first few members of the program, I think, when it just started.
Yeah. So a lot's happened since then. So we're going to cover all of that today. And as I say, we'll kind of go through the roadmap. And the roadmap is obviously broken down into 3 stages. And we have 9 steps. And it's really a journey from financial insecurity through to financial security. Right, I will cut that bit out. A journey from financial insecurity through to financial independence. And stage 1 is all about building confidence. And let's start at the beginning then, Richiko. So was there a particular catalyst that you can look back and remember where you just kind of thought, right, I need to kind of change what I'm doing and I need to start thinking more about building wealth for myself?
Yeah, there certainly was, Christian. I arrived in London 5 years ago. I came for a job. I was working for an airline at the time, and it was a really great opportunity that brought me to the UK. Full of hopes and dreams. And then within a year of being in that job, that company started a global restructure, which meant they were cutting hundreds of jobs, unfortunately. At the time, my job was safe, but just experiencing that whole restructure and seeing the stress with the colleagues that were going to lose their jobs was such a big catalyst that event completely changed my thinking about job security. Felt really exposed, and there's always another job, but just seeing what that did to people when you're that vulnerable and you're relying on one single source of income of your job, when all of a sudden that gets taken away from you, really made me think about what am I doing, and is there something different that I need to be doing? Are there other ways of income that I could generate, and how? But yeah, I had no idea where to start and where to look, but I knew I needed to look at things in a different way, and yeah, that really was the catalyst for it.
Right. So can you remember then what were some of those first steps? Like, how did you begin to start learning about entrepreneurial way of life?
Yeah, spending a lot of time on the internet, just looking up things, searching, looking at YouTube videos, reading books as well about perhaps starting a business or what other learnings and things. Just the journey of exploring began just to see what was out there in terms of courses, books. There's a lot of stuff out there, as we all know, so it quickly gets overwhelming, not sure which direction to head or where to look. So but yeah, that was kind of the start of the journey.
Okay. And then what brought you towards WealthBuilders? Can you remember?
Yes, well, the first venture I did was I started a small online store on Amazon, which was one of the first ventures I started as a business of my own. And, obviously trying to learn more about how that all works. I attended an event. Someone was presenting about Amazon, how to set that up. And you were at that event, Chris. We met at that particular event. You were doing Escape the Rat Race at the time, and I joined. So that was kind of the start of the journey. Did that for a little while, learned so many things from you on that path, and then WealthBuilders obviously came along at that point as well. And I thought, well, I think I found what I'm looking for. I think I need to jump on this bandwagon and join these guys. Yeah,
that's right. So around about that time, that was around about 2018, I think, wasn't it?
It was.
In 2019, yes. Kevin and I launched the WealthBuilders Membership Program. So it was just good timing, and great that you were there to take advantage of that and be one of the first members to join. And it was a lovely cohort of founder members, of which many still remain today and have been on the podcast as well. But Okay, so obviously then you were exposed to the 7 pillars of wealth, and some new IP, and still in the foundational stage, there are some things at the beginning which you have to get clear on, right? One of those is wealth dynamics as well. So just really getting clear on your own entrepreneurial profile, the things that you should be focusing your time on, things you shouldn't be focusing your time on. So did you take the wealth dynamics test, and can you remember what your profile is?
I did take the assessment. Yeah, it was a real eye opener for me. At the corporate level, I'd done a certain number of personality tests and all these sorts of things, but Wealth Dynamics has quite a different approach. And my profile's mechanic, which was really quite eye opening. Just sort of shows all the things that you're good at and where your natural flow of things is, and also where it isn't. There's certain things I kind of was struggling with, and sort of understand a bit better why that is. It was a really great thing to uncover and understand about yourself.
Yeah. And then step 2 is about foundations. This is really where we look at the 5 levels of wealth and, get a really clear understanding of where you are right now in terms of insecurity, security, independence, or beyond that. So where were you at the beginning of the journey then, Richiko?
Beginning, it was financial insecurity. I had one single source of income, which was the job, no other income, until I started the business that sort of started to generate a small income. But yeah, it's definitely was at financial insecurity when I started.
Okay, great. So then the only way to change that is to learn how to start generating predictable recurring income from assets. So moving into stage 2 of the roadmap, which is all about building knowledge. And step 4 in particular is choosing your assets. So you mentioned you already had the e-commerce business running. So what did you then look at in terms of additional pillars?
The other pillar I started to look at when I joined was the property pillar. I didn't have any experience in property, but I thought it was going to get me to security quicker than I was going to get there through the business, which required a lot of upfront investment. It was quite high cost of running the business. So I explored another pillar, which was property, started to slowly educate myself around that particular pillar and choose a strategy where to get started with. So yeah, that was the other one I was going to focus on, and it's turned out to be the main pillar of focus now to get me to that security level.
Okay, so we're gonna, I think, spend a bit of time to actually look at how you've chosen your pillar, then how you've chosen your strategy, and then moving into stage 3 of our roadmap is all about then executing that plan, and in particular turning the wheel of wealth. So if property was your pillar, Richiko, how did you go about finding your strategy?
I started at the basics, so educating myself on all the different strategies that you could do with property. It made most sense to start with the buy-to-let strategy. I didn't own any properties of myself. I didn't own any other buy-to-let properties when I started. I literally starting from zero, and not being from the UK originally, only sort of had a small track record and financial footprint. So being able to start with the buy-to-let pillar made most sense. Was just the easiest way to get started.
Yeah. So the wheel of wealth, obviously, as you say, begins with education, then moves through to support, connection, due diligence, and guided action. So where did you get that education from in particular at the beginning, Richiko, to learn the buy-to-let strategy in more depth?
I did property training with Asset Academy. Being sort of serious about the choice I made, I went full in with the education. I thought a really important aspect of getting the knowledge, particularly not understanding the UK property market, not being from here. So really invested in the education, a 2-year program in property training with Asset Academy, which included a mentorship as well. It's fairly significant investment on my end, but I can honestly say I wouldn't be doing today if it hadn't been for that training and the education and all the knowledge I learned on that training program, and also the network it provided. Talking about support and connections, definitely a very important aspect of being part of that training program, as well as you meet people who are on the same path as you are. They're trying to achieve the same things, and you connect in that way. You're all
Yeah.
focusing on the same journey. So yeah.
So let's so you covered support there. Obviously, you were getting as part of your education, obviously support from Wealth Builders as well. In terms of the connections, then, so specifically with the Wheel of Wealth, the connection piece is really understanding, well, who else has done buy-to-lets and what does it involve, and going and meeting people, having a look at the properties if needs be. So how did you go about connecting with other people in particular, so that you really knew that buy-to-let was right for you and how to go about it?
The Wealth Builders Network actually played a very important role in that aspect as well. So one of the first people I connected with in the community was John Dale, who's now one of our wealth coaches as well. I remember having a phone call with him. He'd been active in the buy-to-let strategy for many years, a lot of experience, and always very, very supportive and very helpful. And that conversation I had with John was really helpful. He just gave me a lot of pointers, sort of helped firm up the strategy for me. Also within the Asset Academy network, a lot of people who are ahead of you in the journey with experience. So, reached out to them to connect with them as well. Just really, really important aspect of you can't do this on your own. It's really key to connect with people who are doing it, and they're slightly ahead of you in the game. They can show you, the right way of going about things. So very, very important.
Cool. So that hopefully gave you the reassurance that buy-to-let was the right strategy for you. And so the next stage of the Wheel of Wealth is about doing your due diligence, Richiko. So what did that involve for you in particular?
The due diligence is a very important step in the process. Basically, I spent a lot of time researching the area for buy-to-let. So once I sort of made a decision on the strategy, the next decision was going to be where that was going to be, which area. Spend a lot of time researching different parts of the UK, a lot of it on the desktop. I was behind the computer, crunching numbers, looking at figures, where this strategy could work, and also more specifically where it could work for me, giving the starting position, the capital I had available to myself to make a start. So I didn't sort of cut any corners in that process. Really spend a lot of time thinking and analysing all the numbers to make sure that I made the right decision on the area where to invest.
Yeah, and interesting now you're saying about analysing the numbers and your wealth dynamic being more on the steely side, right? But you're not just doing this alone, you're doing this with your husband as well, and we're talking about the different dynamics there. So how does that work?
That's an interesting combination. So he's kind of the opposite. He's star profile, very high in blaze energy, and likes to connect with people, likes to get out there and be networking and really that's his strength. So we complement each other very well in that aspect.
Cool. So then the final step of turning the Wheel of Wealth is obviously taking guided action. So that's obviously, working with your coach, working with your support network to turn the wheel and hopefully generate capital or cash flow. So how did that first wheel turn go for you, Richiko?
Yes, I remember it was quite stressful. You're investing a lot of money in buying your first asset and you're hoping you're not going to make any mistakes. But I had fantastic support from my wealth coach, Ian Halfpenny, at the time, again, very experienced in the buy-to-let and property pillar buy-to-let strategy as well. So he was a big help. There was a mentorship part of the Asset Academy as well. So having the 3-day mentorship with the mentor really helped me to just take those first few steps, turning that wheel. And it's a big milestone.
Yeah. So what was the result that generated in terms of cash flow for you?
At the end, it puts £300 a month net cash flow into the bank. That was after refinance. So I bought it for £53,000. A very small buy-to-let, a very big investment for me, but then did some works to it and revalued at 77,000. So I was able to pull some money out to start buying the next property. And then the cash flow was £300 a month. So yeah,
great.
Not a bad result.
So that obviously got the thermometer rising, because we send out the wealth chart obviously, and the key is to keep increasing that thermometer until you reach your security level and then your independence. So that was your first successful wheel turn in property. So then you have to make a decision. What's going to be the next wheel turn? So where has that led since then?
I've kept going with that wheel turn actually, Chris. Just rinse and repeat model. It worked the first time. It was quite stressful, but the more often you turn that wheel, you're more familiar you become with the process. So since I've started, I've turned that wheel 7 times now. There's a big difference between the first time and the 7th time. Just really feel like you know what you're doing now, and comparing to that very first investment, I wouldn't say I could do it with my eyes closed, but it's certainly a lot easier now. So that model, it works. There's no reason to not continue repeating and keep turning those wheels and keep generating that recurring income.
Great. So that's now pushed you significantly closer to your security figure, I imagine.
It has, yeah. So it's well within reach now. It's the aim for 2022 is to surpass that level. Just keep doing what I'm doing. I know I'm going to get there. So it's really quite amazing. And thinking about accelerating and the next level.
Yeah, that's great. And obviously, I know now, you're thinking about what that next strategy might be. We'll come on to that in a second. But, a key part of the wealth building process is, of course, your use of leverage. So can you think back to what the key points of leverage have been for you, Richiko?
Leverage has been quite critical for me to achieve what I've achieved so far. And, in property, you're always going to run out of money before you're going to run out of ambition. So the leverage of finance, whether it's institutional finance or private finance, has been key for me to keep growing and keep doing, keep adding the properties to the portfolio. Because you do run out of money quite quickly in this game. So leveraging investor finance and bank finance was quite key. Also, leveraging relationships in the investment area. I live in London, which is quite a long distance away from where my properties are. So leveraging relationships from trusted people who are in the area. They can help manage things, day-to-day things, property management, refurbishment management. Really rely on strong network and strong relationships to help with all these things. So that's been quite key for me as well. Okay.
And what about relationships that you've built with other members of the community? Because I believe that you're expanding into the joint venture pillar as well.
Yes, that's very true. It's always great to connect with so many people, and people are on the same path, like-minded people. So connections are made very easily, I think, within the community. Everyone's always really helpful, and thinking about ways to collaborate together. So there is a joint venture I'm currently working on with one of the other WealthBuilder members, which focuses on investors in the Netherlands looking to invest in the UK in property. Again, very interesting and exciting venture to further explore in the new year.
Yeah, brilliant. And also, just whilst we're on pillars, we talk about pensions a lot, Richiko, but you had a slightly different kind of experience, I suppose, when you were exploring the pension pillar. Do you mind just telling us about that?
So I worked most of my career in Australia. So most of my pension was built up in Australia in what they call a superannuation. And when I joined WealthBuilders, the learning about the pension pillar, I was able to apply that principle to my personal situation as well. Even though it was a pension in another country, it really did get me thinking about how could I leverage the pension I've got. It was kind of just sitting there. I'd left the country. There was no more contributions being made into that pension. So just the program sort of taught me, think about it in a different way. And we were able to move that pension into a self-managed fund. So a lot more control in terms of the investments that you can do with your pension. We were able to buy a property with it, do all sorts of things. So, getting a much better return and have much more control over that pot of money compared to when it was just sitting there in the stock market exposed. So I feel a lot better about that as well. And yeah, it's just one of the key things I learned from Wealth Builders is in that regard. So it's cool. It's all about the principles and how you can apply them to your personal situation.
So had you not had that education, do you think that pension might still be sat there in the market right now?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, well that's really good to hear. Talking about moving forwards then, so the final step of the roadmap is called Accelerate, and it's about obviously then expanding on what you're already doing, looking at different pillars, looking at different strategies. So where are you focused now for 2022, Richiko?
The focus is mainly to get to security, but just with the wheel turns that I'm already doing in the buy-to-let area, I know how to get there. So it's really thinking about what other wheels to turn. And I did sort of make a start with a new wheel turn in commercial property at the end of last year. So it's a new wheel turn again. Lots of following the same process of education. Support, connections, and due diligence. Been a very steep learning curve for me, and been pushing me outside of my comfort zone. But it's a new wheel turn. Follow the process, and you'll get there safely. So full confidence that that's going to generate a lot of new opportunities moving forward to accelerate and help get to that next level of financial independence.
Yeah, well, we look forward to seeing that progressing, Richiko. Well done on everything so far. Thank you so much as well for all of the support that you provide our members in the community. I know everyone really, really appreciates it, and certainly we do as well. So thanks a lot for sharing today.
Thank you, Chris. It's been a pleasure.